Welcome to the Facerocker Podcast, number 39. This week, we venture outside the sound room and head on over to visit Chris Hardwick over where they're shooting at midnight. We talked to Chris about hosting, comedy, a little bit of a conversation about tattoos, too, and which ones we would get. It's a great podcast. We hope you enjoy it. Also want to talk a little bit about websites. Websites are difficult. Everyone's got phones and tablets, and they're using Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is like single-handedly responsible for like hair loss in probably 90% of web developers because of how it displays things. And if you want to make a professional looking website, you basically have two options. One, spend a lot of time learning how to code and all the hacks for display and CSS and all that stuff. Or my recommendation, head on over to squarespace.com. So Squarespace is a site where you can build a professional looking site or online portfolio off of pre-made templates. You know that's going to look good. It looks fantastic. It takes you minutes as opposed to days and weeks of your lives to make a website. Head on over to squarespace.com. Use the promo code RocketJump. You'll get a free trial as well as 10% off your first purchase. If you're a DP or an actor or working in the industry, this is my recommendation. Get your name out there. Use squarespace.com. Build yourself a site. Look like a pro, and you'll be booking gigs and raking in the dough in no time. Anyway, head on over to squarespace.com. Promo code RocketJump. And in the meantime, please enjoy our podcast with Chris Hardwick. I would rather live in a world where like crazy conspiracy theories actually existed, because it would at least prove that we have James Bond-esque villains out there who are like, yes, we are 3 steps ahead. Yes, I meant to get captured. Yes, indeed. Like, how incredible would it have been if like the Silk Road guy got like put in jail and his first statement's like, this is exactly where I need to be right now. I was like, what is he doing? What is he doing? It's the plot of every movie of the last 2 years now.
Or the fucking or the Lex Luthor original Superman movie, like, I fired 2 MX missiles in opposite directions. You can't track both of them. One of them, I have all this real estate, so after I sink a portion of the continent into the fucking ocean, then I'm gonna own all of this property. Like, I think that's why comic books. I think that's what's so great, is that it's like the super villainy is as far-fetched as like, it's almost more believable. Some guy could fly over that.
I got bit by a spider. You got the powers of a spider. Duh, of course.
In the real world, it's just, hey, we have $45 billion. Let's buy Time Warner.
That's how we can just straight buy things. Right. Turns out we can just wash this down with a hose full of money.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks. I feel like in the Amazing Spider-Man reboot that they could have spent 4 more minutes on after he got bitten, as opposed to just like, I'm in a subway, now I'm on the ceiling of the subway.
Yeah.
Like, so he was the only person that got bitten by one of those spiders. So does anyone who gets bitten by one of these, I mean, I know they have to adapt that sort of that old idea of like radioactivity giving people power. We're not really a nuclear society in that way anymore. Yeah. So now they're just genetically modified, but then that doesn't really explain how they could transfer their DNA.
Yeah, it's taking that moment of like, nuclear power, how interesting and mysterious. What could happen to it? It's like, corn that lasts longer, how interesting and mysterious.
Or you get horrible cancer.
But the thing that always bums me out is like, you look at like the time periods of history of mankind, and it's like the Egyptians, and you have like, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and of course you have Beowulf and stuff, and it's like, yes, of course. And then the 20th century, the saga of the Spider-Man. It's like, really, this is what people 2,000 years will study? Like, you imagine that, right? I remember I read Beowulf. Like, is this going to be studied in archaeology classes like later? And be like, yes, the Spider-Man by Stan Lee.
He was their greatest hero.
Every year they made a movie immortalizing him. The idea of a spider.
But it'll be a religion, and like someone will find a comic book and be like, no, this is the Bible.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, we must find the Virgin Mary Jane.
Well, yeah, they're gonna look at it like this society had an incredible reverence for spiders, as evidenced by their greatest hero. Like, it always makes me wonder when you got like the Renaissance fair, right? And you look around and you're just like, if someone was here from the time period, they'd be like, that guy's boots is 400 years later from that that pants. This is wrong.
Well, that
That's
person would have a
ridiculous."
lot of knowledge of
They would.
different
Yeah, exactly. Different
clothing throughout the
time
ages.
traveler.
But I want to
Essentially,
see.
they're
I want to
talking about.
fast forward 400 years from now to 2400 and see what the Middle Ages, like Renaissance fair is for this time period. Like, what would it be? It's like guys wearing Ed Hardy shirts and bell bottoms, just like mismatches in time. Everyone talks in like hip hop lingo
What is that
or
amazing
something.
in Futurama they do where they go to Moonland or whatever? And that's exactly what it is. It's like cowboys walk into like a Renaissance castle and they get into a pirate ship. Because it's like it's 1,000 years in the future and all that's like within 100 years. So it's like whatever, it's all the same, right? Bell bottoms and pirates are
It's all
like
the- it's all
essentially the same.
If Ed Hardy is still around in 400 years, I will come back from the dead and lay waste to this planet.
Did you know that Ed Hardy was in fact at one point completely highly regarded, respected tattoo artist?
I did not know that.
He was
I
like
just-
a full-on underground dude. Everyone's like, yeah, he's one of the best. And then he was like, hey, I got an idea. I'm just gonna make clothes that everyone hates. And then
It's basically like, if you don't want to put a tattoo on your body, I'll just give you a tattoo on your shirt. I cannot tell you how many times I had to paint barbed wire around a tiger's fucking face. So let's just put that on
I just do
t-shirts
it
now.
once, and then
Yeah.
these Indonesians can just mass produce it for me, and we're set.
This rose is bleeding. Fuck you, man.
Des, do you have a tattoo? I feel like you have a tattoo.
I do.
Are you-
back. I got one at a very young age.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that something you want to talk about?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I was thinking about
What if it's like Rugrats? Like, I was really young. It's really
Teenage Mutant Ninja
No, I have
Turtles.
one. I got one when we were in high school. All the guys on the wrestling team were like, "We're going to get tattoos." Okay, that's cool. And everyone thought we were all tough and it would look intimidating. And now I'm stuck with a tattoo. You know, and can't wait to get rid of it one of these days.
It's one of those things where
You should
because
print on a shirt and put it on your chest
All
so you
right.
all know what it looks like.
Yeah.
we had because there's like this new hip trend. I was reading about these, new art trends in tattoos, and now it's like geometric animals with like gradient shading and stuff. And the funny thing about it is everyone's debating about it because they're like, "This is stupid. This is stupid. This is gonna bleed. This is gonna be the worst thing ever." And other people are like, "Yeah, you need black lines to like hold the things in. That's how tattoos work." Like, no, what are you talking about? And then in the end, it's like no one will know for 15 years. So it's like you're pretty much just be like, "All right, I'm just gonna roll the dice on this thing that'll permanently be on my body." In 15 years, it might just look like a blob of brown. Just
knows?
on my arm.
I feel like
Yeah.
they all look like that in 15 years.
No, but it's weird. Like the technology.
But
gets
now
crazy.
there's gonna be a lot of old people
Yeah.
in the not too distant future who are just gonna look like fucking gym equipment that was left out in the sun, where all the logos have kind of
I have
faded.
the best. I have the best coffee. I have the best coffee table book idea, which is just going to be nothing but tramp stamps of people in their 70s and 80s.
Gram stamps.
In gram stamps. Yes, exactly.
If that book sells, it's 100% of that name because of that name. So he would have all
Yeah, I owe
royalties
some
in that book.
royalties on that one.
That's a terrible idea for
What are
a
you
coffee
talking about?
table
Could you
book.
imagine in like 50 years, it could be a good.
So you're saying like somebody
coffee
comes to
tables.
your nice home and sits down at a table and they open it, it's just
Oh, it's
the
not a nice
backs
home.
of old people with
Just
tattoos.
yeah, it's about
That's-
the futility of permanence in
That's
an age of
gross.
decay.
You might as well just like, if you're a lady and you have a tattoo on your lower back and it's a Chinese symbol, then you might as well just have it say like really old vagina, so that it'll be hilarious
by the time it gets there. Yeah, what's an immortal phrase that will be funny in 20 years? Oh man, yes, tattoos, not a good.
I don't have
thing.
any. My girlfriend's got a bunch, and she's super. From what I've heard, that most people when they get one tattoo, they just kind of get addicted to them. She's like, well,
It
now I
becomes
got to
a
have
thing.
this one because it balances, and now I got to. Every time she gets a tattoo, she goes, yeah, I'll probably slow down after this. And literally 2 days after she get a tattoo, she goes, I think the sleeve would look really
Yeah.
It just keeps getting crazier and crazier.
By the end, it's just neck tattoos, face tattoos everywhere.
I'm just
Yeah.
afraid to. I don't think I would. I feel like I would get really compulsive about it and be like, I can't ever get that off my body. Like,
Yeah, there's something
I'd
weird
freak
about.
out.
Yeah, I think you got to do the permanent marker test. Just like permanent marker something. Just see what happens. See what it does to your psyche
For a while.
for a bit. Yeah.
I guess I could do that, but then I can never really decide on what would I want to live with for the rest of
Forever.
my
So
life.
what I've heard is what's interesting is that what a lot of people say is like, for some people, like, I was reading about some of these guys who were talking about like, yeah, when I put a tattoo on, it's like for me it is this thing because it reminds me about this part of my life that I don't want to forget before these emotional / intellectual reasons. It's okay that it becomes out of date because it's reminding me of this time period specifically.
Tattoos are dumb. Oh yeah, right.
yeah, right.
It just says right on your arm.
So
Tattoos
edgy.
are- yeah.
At least a shirt. At least a shirt. So you have to be some weird symbol that means something to you, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think it would probably have to be something Doctor Who-ish for me, like maybe like
down
from the
with that.
Gallifreyan alphabet or something.
There you go.
I don't know.
Doctor's name.
The Doctor.
Gallifreyan.
Well, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
You do it. Matt's
Maybe.
big Doctor Who
I'm a
guy
big
too.
Doctor Who fan,
Well.
but my girlfriend would not like if I tattooed Doctor Who on my.
Oh,
I already have like
girlfriend-
40 T-shirts. She's like, that's if
My
I came with a
girlfriend's
tattoo.
begging me to do it, and I joke with her. I'm like, I think I'm gonna get a tattoo, and she's like, really? And I'm like, no. She goes, fuck you. Yeah,
Just a TARDIS on your whole, just a massive
The
TARDIS
chest.
on your chest.
a chest TARDIS.
Just TARDIS. You do like sonic screwdriver like on your forearm. You know?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think she's thinking about doing that. She's
Down
thinking
your thigh.
just your thigh.
This is only one of two.
Sonic screwdriver on. Never mind.
No, stop.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Unbelievable.
I apologize. Yeah. We should probably introduce our guest.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Talking for 15 minutes about
that's true.
tattoos.
We got into it. Welcome to another Facerocker podcast.
I'm Fred Hardy. I'm Ed Hardy's brother. I don't like tattoos.
Not a fan.
No, I don't get it.
My co-host Matt Arnold, Dolly.
Hey.
And we're sitting today with Chris Hardwick
Gentlemen.
of many things. And also from what we've heard from multiple people, the greatest host of all time. That's what someone said. That's what someone said.
I don't know. That was Chloe, right? You talked to my girlfriend Chloe who said that.
No, completely unaffiliated.
And also our neighbors. We're neighbors.
That's
we're,
true.
We're work neighbors.
Yes.
That's true. We share office space. We ding each other's cars as we try to scoot out of our very tiny parking lot.
We mostly just see the Lego version of you, though. That's mostly what we see of you.
It's so creepy.
It is a pretty.
It's awesome but creepy.
Hold on, wait. Can we tell the idea for your thing?
I guess we could do it.
Yeah.
I was gonna buy blue Legos, and every single day, every morning before all the nurse guys gonna work, just add one piece of a blue Lego to your bulge, and just see how long it took to see how long it takes for them. Nobody over there is gonna listen to this podcast, so I can still do it. Just see how long it takes for them to notice
what we're
that
saying is
your pants are just growing.
We would like Taz's approval to modify the Lego version of your junk.
I didn't know that was made for New York Comic Con in 2012, and at our booth there, and I didn't know what was happening, and then someone else in the company said, "Oh, you know, this really famous Lego artist is gonna make a Lego thing," and I think I just thought like a minifig, like I wasn't even really thinking. And when I saw it, I was like,
size.
"What the fuck?" And the creepy thing about it is that I don't want people to think that I was like,
Hey, you know what I need right
you know
now?
what this world needs? Me in block form. So
It still gets me. We work late, and there are so many times I'm turning off the lights and turn around. And there's just this dude sitting in a chair, staring blankly at me.
I've taken a nap and I've gotten up and I've looked through one of the windows that we have, and like I've stripped like I freak out because it looks like there's just a dude sitting there, legs crossed.
One of these days, we'll have the lights down on our side, so you'll just see like shadows, and I'm gonna come in for like the last hour of work and just sit there, and then when I notice that you look out the window, I'll just get up and slowly walk.
It freaked me out.
We need to get some kind of like silhouette or something. In my mind, what we need is like the Home Alone silhouettes dancing on our side, so that anytime you guys look over, it's like, oh, they're partying again.
So those are the.
What a bad idea. Everything about that was a bad idea. Like how did he know that they would be out there? Was he dancing around like that all night? What were the lack of cars for this so-called Christmas party? Everything about this idea was half-baked, yet somehow it worked.
Exactly. That's strange. These people seem to be alternating planes.
These two-dimensional flatland figurines are...
we're the crazy wet bandits. Home Alone is one of those movies that I always feel like, it's so ridiculous. But then I watch it around Christmas time. I'm like, this is such a great movie.
Holds up.
It's so much fun.
Home Alone does hold up quite well.
He fucks those guys up.
You
So
cannot do that
hard.
movie anymore. Like,
No, you
appearance like
couldn't.
this is questionable.
I mean, he sets Joe Pesci's head on
he
fire.
definitely kills them
He
multiple
sets them
times.
on fire.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't seem like, it's like, especially in this day and age, I would love to, it may be what they did a Home Alone remake, just a straight up remake.
I mean,
But it's like someone's trying to break into Kevin McAllister's house now,
Yeah.
and he just shoots the guy.
Yeah, it's just like,
I wasn't allowed to have guns when I was a kid, but now I can just
yeah,
fucking
it's
kill you.
like Castle Doctrine.
Yeah.
And it's just like this weird movie. It's like, I don't know if we should watch this thing. It's not a Christmas movie
Yeah, or
anymore.
Kevin McAllister's kids,
Oh, there you go.
who basically just tweets someone's trying to break into the house, and then the cops show up, and the movie's like 4 minutes long.
Modern day remakes of
We had the idea for the President Home Alone, which is they just go on a peace talk and they leave the president behind at the Oval Office, and the terrorists are going to attack. And
the president has to
defend Home Alone. Yeah,
defend the White House from.
And then they step through the window and they step on a Christmas ornament, and then it just as a nuclear bomb goes off in another country.
It's like the launch codes.
Yeah.
Take another step and Georgia's gone. Take another step and Egypt's gone. This is a really dark scene with our president.
Yeah. You're working on a show on, is it Comedy Central?
It is, yeah.
At midnight.
At midnight.
It's like, is it like the first Twitter? Is it the first kind of Twitter themed sort of related?
Well,
show?
it's
kind of. It's really interesting how it melds.
It's pretty much any
world.
social media,
Yeah.
like any place where people interact online. So, Reddit, YouTube comment threads, Yelp, OkCupid, Tinder, like any place where people are interacting with one another is where our source material comes from. And so I feel like it probably is the first show to do that. Because I know a lot of shows sort of feel like they do this thing where an executive goes, hey, kids, my kid's on Twitter. We got to put tweets
thing.
on the show.
Tweet some stuff.
And it's sort of like there's this kind of inorganic manifestation of that platform on another platform, almost like
It happens all the time.
well, I feel like I've seen it in technology too, where they started making after iPads and capacitive touchscreens became popular and trendy. That some computer companies were like, "Oh, we just made our home screen, I just made our monitor touchable." And they're like, "Yeah, but the UI doesn't really support. Like, you have to build it. You can't just put that layer on top of that thing and go, look, we did it."
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how many times I'm annoyed when someone touches my screen? Like, why would I want to encourage this?
Besides, you don't want to be type, poke, type, poke.
Well, then but you also see in the other stuff like things like Google Glass, where it's just like, hey, it'd be cool if everything is voice control. It's like, you know what? Sometimes it's just easier to look at something in front of me.
Well, how many times have you been at I'm in a Starbucks 2-3 times a day. And sometimes it's faster to just pay with cash than to like get the app to line up with the little reader, the barcode. Like, sorry, it's not. Oh, we have to reset the. You're like, this is technology supposed to make it. I mean, I think we all look at technology as like, no, it's just supposed to make stuff cooler. It doesn't have to make it easier. As long as it just is cooler with my phone.
Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Bitcoin is basically that, by the way. It's just a cooler way of paying for it. It's like it takes 15 minutes.
I love the lore that's already springing up.
Oh
where
my gosh.
Like, my friend bought like 400, and it would be worth like $1 million.
Yeah, right now.
I had 3 pizzas. If I didn't eat those pizzas,
I had
I'd have a Ferrari.
I mean, traditionally, anything that has seemed too good to be true is always fine.
It's throughout history.
It's like the stock market crash, in the 20s, where everyone's like, "Oh, stocks! You can just hand people pieces of paper, and then it's worth money." And everyone's like, "Great!"
It's like tulips.
And then it crashed. And then
tulips are really cool right now.
The .com bubbles. Oh, fuck it, it's fine. We just own all the stock of this. You can't see it, but it's there.
It's like virtual.
Yeah,
it's
but
great.
maybe I don't know. Maybe there's a billboard for Bitcoin at it's at like right where Hillhurst and Hollywood Boulevard meet.
Oh yeah,
near Los Feliz. There's just a billboard
to try to use it or
Bitcoin.
Something?
I don't know. It's just a billboard.
A weird thing to add. That'd be like just like use the dollar.
But
like,
there's a QR code on it, and I'm like, but it's a billboard. Can you zoom in? I'm always driving by.
Like QR code, by the way, is the one thing that just stubbornly refuses to die.
Does not catch on.
It's just like trying. It's just like stop trying to make QR codes. It's like fetch and then
it won't catch on, but it won't die.
It won't die. It just keeps showing up. It's like, just stop.
There's always that moment in like an ad meeting or you're talking to a brand that word just comes up. It's always like near the end, they're like, and then QR code integration. Like it was like, what? What do you want us to do?
I've seen that like buses and stuff. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I want to see the numbers. Like I want to meet the 4 people who are like, oh, a QR code. Let me just see where this leads me.
It's almost like how Murder, She Wrote was on for so long, and at a certain point, you're like, is it still on? That's still a thing.
There's new episodes, really? Okay, there's still okay. All right, there's still.
Did she start as an old person on the show, or has it been on?
She started as an old person. Well, it's not on anymore, but she started as an old. But they're rebooting it. They're rebooting it with Octavia Spencer. So that's really happening.
Awesome.
They're rebooting it, but yeah. So Jessica Fletcher was old when it started, and then just got really old, 11. And then, but my theory on Murder, She Wrote was that when you start looking at the data, you go, okay, look, she lived in this really small town in Maine. All right, we live in Los Angeles with 12 million people. How many murders do you think you will be near in your life, right, in Los Angeles? Right.
Yeah.
So you go. So they did that show was like 12 seasons, I think. So then you start doing the math and you go, okay, so 12 seasons, 22 episodes a season. So, you're almost 250 episodes of that show. So that's 250 murders. And, like maybe there's a plus or minus margin of error for times that she went out of town or someone else came in and solved the case or whatever.
Some holiday special of some kind. Maybe.
So my belief about Murder, She Wrote is that Jessica Fletcher was a serial killer. And that the entire series of Murder, She Wrote was her on death row in her twisted brain assigning the murders to other people, so that she had written all these murder mysteries that were all basically her brain's way of dealing with the fact that she killed like 250 people.
That would be an incredible direction for the reboot. Like a Hannibal, like they're talking to the original Murder, She Wrote woman.
Do you know how fucking mad like all of the like octogenarian audience would have been if at the end of Murder, She Wrote, they just added that last 4 minutes and you found out the entire thing was basically just a diary of a mad woman, and everyone would be like, what the fuck? I mean,
I think it would have killed people.
Such a great way.
It would have
straight
straight up killed people.
I think you have a responsibility to fucking end a show like that by just salting the earth around the show.
Yeah, the show's done.
Yeah.
You ain't rebooting shit.
Yeah, fuck you. She killed everyone.
Is it St. Elmo's Fire? Is that one? Or the
St. Elsewhere?
St. Elsewhere? No, which one's the one that was like,
the Bob Newhart show? The one that was just all a dream in the snow globe or whatever?
The snow globe was St. Elsewhere.
St. Elsewhere.
And so what's interesting about stuff like that is that you start... If you buy into that concept that the show was in the snow globe of an autistic child, then
I've heard about this. Yeah.
Then it basically connects that show to a bunch of other shows which are also in that kid's mind.
Yeah, it's like every television show can be connected to it.
You can totally. I just talked about this on my podcast with when Robert Kirkman came on. Is that I think. I like to think of Breaking Bad as the precursor to Walking Dead, because the time frame of Breaking Bad was, I don't know, like
a year or something,
like 07, 08 to 2000.
Another time show.
I mean, yeah. So in their universe, it was like 07 to 09 or so, and then Walking Dead started like just right after that. And so my belief was that after Heisenberg died, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Breaking Bad right now, you're not
you
going
just
to.
got spoiled.
Yeah. That someone tried to recreate the blue meth, and that this bath salts thing happened, and that started the zombie apocalypse, which...
completely sound.
Which The Walking Dead totally supported that theory, because in episode 1 of season 2... they go into like Merle's satchel, and just as a nod to Breaking Bad, there's a bag of blue meth in there. So they automatically in the prop department basically connected those two fan universes together. So that's the story that I'm
they're sticking to.
If anyone gives a shit.
So he ended the world essentially.
Ultimately. But that to me, with a show that just managed to escalate every year in such an amazing way, like
there's only nowhere to go.
That is the grand finale of the effect that Walter White had on, like that's what they were trying to do with the plane crash and everything else, to show like, the choices that one guy makes and how narcissistic he is affected, so much greater than just himself and his family. And so I feel like that is the ultimate
expression.
Like, bam!
You've heard the incredibly good fan theory about that Mad Men, that Don Draper's D.B. Cooper, the guy who robbed the bank and then jumped out of the plane and like just never was found again.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Because here's the crazy one. Because like every season there's an obsession about airplanes. Every season there's a subplot about airplanes and airlines, and it's just about this guy who's just becoming more and more disenfranchised with this. And and it's this guy pulling up all these quotes from the thing. Where it's like,
that's really
he's
great.
Going to be a bank robber. He's just going to walk anonymously into it, because the guy is described as a super charming, like just square jawed, like just suave businessman guy.
I like that theory. I like that theory a lot.
Yeah.
So last season will be action packed.
Yeah, it'll be straight up 24. It'll be in real time. It'll be.
They find out who he is, and he's escaping from the police.
Yeah,
I dig it.
That's the only way to end that show, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's. I thought a few years ago, I had this really brilliant theory about how Mad Men was going to end, which is Don Draper jumping out of the window to mirror the opening credits. That basically the clue, the entire series was the last shot was basically the first shot you see almost in every show. And so I told this to, I said this to John Hamm thinking he's going to be like, you're pretty clever. And he was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's the obvious one that people could do. And I was like, I'm dumb.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I'm dumb. I'm dumb because I thought I was smart.
There's so many instances of that when you're like, hey guys, I'm one step ahead. This is the case, right? And you're just like, no.
Just like the government.
Just like the government. No one's one step ahead.
Well, and here's a tip for anyone, whoever is in that mindset of like, oh, here we go. Never, ever, ever think that you have an interesting take on someone's name. Because you don't.
They've lived their whole lives.
There's an actor named Gary Cole who was in like Office Space and Brady Bunch movie, and he's a fucking great actor. And I was working on a cartoon at Nickelodeon, and one of the actors on the show did this series for HBO, and she had a love scene with Gary Cole. And so she said, oh, I just shot a love scene with Gary Cole. And Rob Paulson, this other voice actor, very quickly added, man. So it would sound like I just had a love scene with Gary Coleman. And so I run into Gary Cole at a voiceover thing, and I go, and I tell him this story, and he was like, and he goes, oh yeah, our names are close, I know. I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. Into my mind, thinking like, I have the greatest.
Wait till he hears
that I'm going to unwrap before your eyes, Gary Cole. That is not only going to delight you, but we are going to be friends after this.
The sheer weight of this win.
And none of that happened.
So last week I was actually at the Dice Awards. I was hosting it. With,
you hosted with Felicia.
You replaced the best host of all time.
I did, which is a shock.
Oh, that's why you were saying everyone was shitting on you. Oh, well, I got shit on a ton when I did it.
Can I ask you something real quick? As now two people who have sat in front of a bunch of like video game developers.
Yeah.
It's a weird crowd.
Well, here's the thing, and here's what I told them that they should. Here's what I asked them to do for the next year. The Dice people were awesome. Like,
no,
they were
great. They're absolutely
super cool. I had fun. I had fun doing it, but there's just something that, like, if you're not, and I've been doing stand up for 15, 16 years, so this is just, I have a lot of experience with live shows, and so
I've never done stand up ever. That was the first thing I ever hosted, so I want to hear about this.
Well, that is interesting that was your friend. That's a tough one to
it is. It's a weird one.
So here's the main challenge if you're hosting the show is that a crowd has to be warm.
Yeah.
And so when I did it, basically everyone was drinking and milling about, and they just went, everyone please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
So, I basically got shoved that on stage as people were still sitting down.
Yes.
So people were still sitting down. They weren't paying attention yet. It wasn't their fault. That's just
how people.
That's just a crowd dynamic. Like, a crowd has to have the opportunity to come together as a single entity, and then focus on the show.
Yeah.
That's warming up a crowd. So I was like, the one thing that I would change is that, like 20 minutes before the show, have people sit down, have someone come out and warm them up for 10 or 15 minutes just to focus them.
Yeah.
Because I was having to do that in the opening monologue, and at a certain point, I kind of just, in a fun way, I sort of snapped at them the way that I would at a live show. I was like, you guys need to fucking focus.
Yeah.
Because an audience essentially needs to be led a little bit. I mean, that's, in most audiences, that's one of the things that you do as an audience member is you put your trust in the person up on stage that they're going to lead you somewhere. And it's going to be funny, or it can be emotional and dramatic or whatever, but you are surrendering a certain amount of the direction of the evening, and that is your job as an audience member, is to, like, not just cross your arms and go, you better fucking make me laugh, shithead, but to really come together as an audience and give, and so as soon as I did that, they focused.
Yeah.
And then it started to go better from there. The best moment of our show was a guy from, I think maybe from Skylanders, but this drunk guy from the back was like, we didn't win an award, and he got up on stage, and like, those are my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Because he wasn't an angry drunk, he was just like a happy, like, oh, come on. And those sort of real moments in a show where it's not so presentational are my favorite kind of moments of the show.
No, I think so. Having a loose, be able to sort of roll with it. And I remember actually distinctly thinking, standing around, like, kind of looking, I'm like, there really should be someone just going, like, literally just going through a joke book.
Well, because the problem is, and the other problem is, you don't, when you're hosting a show like that, you don't want to do too many jokes, because
It's a reverent sort of, you know.
Because if you're just doing jokes, there's a hit and miss ratio.
Yeah.
And they're also kind of self-indulgent. And then if they don't hit, then people are like, well, I didn't come to fucking see you. I came to see games and you're fucking telling jokes. Fuck you. Like there's a certain selfishness to joke telling because you're trying to, you're trying to get your brain jerked off by the crowd. And so, which is ultimately what it is. So the challenging part is that when you first come out and the crowd's not paying attention, people who are watching the live stream are going, well, he's bombing.
Right, exactly.
Which to a degree is true.
Yeah, because they're not set up.
It's not necessarily for the reason that they think. I mean, some people might not think it's funny, but really, you can't do well if no one's paying attention.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But people on the live stream don't see that part, so they just notice like, well, no one's reacting to anything. Some people who do that kind of stuff, maybe very smartly, there's one school of thought that says, pretend like the show is going great because people watching on live stream or watching on television they can't tell.
Right.
But I tend to be more of the kind of person that likes to call out things that are happening in the moment rather than lying about what's happening.
Just pretending.
And so I had no problem just being like, you guys need to fucking focus. We're here to give you awards, and you need to sit down and look at it. And then like not in a super aggressive way,
but in a way that at least broke the momentum of just like, I'm just going to sit down.
That's why I think I was a little bummed when I think maybe it was VentureBeat or someone said like that I was aggressive with the crowd, and I sort of felt like, well, you guys weren't there. Like you weren't there, and so you don't know what the immediate, or maybe they were, but maybe you didn't know what the dynamic was. And then after that moment, it totally loosened up, and they were cool, and I was cool with them, and it was fun, and it was silly, and people got awards, and it was a super tight show, and then we went home, and it was great. So I actually I liked hosting the Dice Awards, but I don't know. It's just I like hosting things.
Yeah,
and
that's really interesting to me, because what you're talking about is like it's definitely drawing from a skill set, and definitely drawing from experience that I think most people don't have, or at least are familiar with. I think you look at Michael Bay at CES, like just freezing
out of his element,
freezing, and it's like, I can't read the teleprompter. And I think I think him just being like, forget, I'm out of here, instead of sitting there trying to stumble through it, that's a ballsy move, even just to be like, I'm out, I'm out. Like, what I mean? It's like, even that's like, that's crazy.
The guy with him didn't help him very much.
But you know what though? I think an audience will always be free. There's nothing wrong with fuck ups. It's one of the reasons why I love live television. There's nothing wrong with fuck ups as long as you don't freak out about it. The audience, I mean, again, they're sort of looking at you to be the emotional leader of that experience. And so, I mean, if like you were a kid and you had a babysitter and something happened and the babysitter freaked out, you would freak out. But if the adult or whoever
they're looking to you.
Yeah, but if the adult in the room or whatever was like, yeah, everything's fine, then you'd be like, okay. And there's a very similar dynamic with a live show. And so if something fucks up, you can just go, well, this thing fucked up, and now we're all in a situation, but we'll get through it. And then everyone will go, okay, and it's fine.
Thank you very much for listening to today's podcast. We're going to take a very short break. I just want to take a moment to tell you about our brand new sponsor. Today's Facerocker Podcast is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace.com, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website and online portfolio. Take it from us, building your own website is a huge pain in the butt. It took us forever to build RocketJump. It's a very difficult task, especially if you're an artsy-fartsy creative type that doesn't know how to code. Use the offer code RocketJump, sign up for a free trial, and you get 10% off your first purchase. These guys are great. It's all drag and drop, fully customizable. You can link your site right to your Facebook and Twitter profiles. Even a chump like you, John, can put together a great website in minutes.
Well, from what I hear, they've got tons of design templates and style options, and they update with new stuff all the time. You can even set up like a merch store in 2 seconds.
You got a bunch of merch you want to sell?
Not yet, but I will be now that I can use Squarespace.com to easily set up my website.
You can. It's just that easy. Plus, there's this really cool feature where all the designs also come in the mobile version, so your site doesn't look like total garbage on an iPhone.
Also, if you need a little help, or if you just want someone to talk to because you're having a lonely Saturday night, they have an amazing customer support team. Over 100 people on call 24/7.
Thanks to Squarespace for supporting the show. Head over to squarespace.com and use the promo code RocketJump for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. Again, just go try it out. Design your website. If you like it, then you buy.
All starting at $8 a month.
Don't even need a credit card to get started.
Squarespace. It's everything you need to make a kick-ass website.
Hey guys, how's it going? Jimmy Wong, aka Ted from VGHS here, telling you to check out shop.rocketjump.com. We've got brand new merchandise like iPhone cases and iPad decals to shirts, Blu-rays, and posters, including brand new Season 2 designs from our friends at Danger Brain. There's also the incredibly popular VGHS hoodie, and some of our older shirts are on sale for a great price. So make sure you check it out right after this podcast at shop.rocketjump.com. Thanks so much, guys.
Those are the best moments of any show when that stuff happens.
Oh no, absolutely.
Like the
was the
Golden
case.
Globes, wasn't it Jonah Hill or whatever? The teleprompter didn't work, and again, he was like, she was gonna try to fake it, and he's just like, I'm not gonna lie, the fucking teleprompter's off, and it was like almost the funniest part of that show. And again, it was a lot more calming than if he had been trying.
That
to
was true.
think
The best part this year was when the Oculus guy came out. And he was like trying to read it, but he didn't have his glasses on, and they were shining spotlights over the thing. And he's like, after a certain point, he's like, I'm sorry, hold on. And he pulls out his phone. He's like, I'm really nearsighted. I can't read that far. And then the person sitting next to him was like, well, that's why you invented the Oculus. And I was like, that was the best part. That was the best part of the whole thing. You know, and that was a moment where it was just like being sort of, loose with that.
I mean, hosting is a very specific muscle because it's not all comics necessarily can host.
What's the difference there?
The difference being that comedy is joke-based, and comedy is all about the stand-up is all about the person on stage. They're the whole focus of everything, and it's joke-based, and they're telling you, and But when you're hosting a show, you're in service of a larger thing, and so your job is to get your personality across and form a relationship with the audience, but not try to overshadow the bigger thing, and then also to be like a friendly traffic cop. You start to develop a sense of like I'll kind of have this feeling in my gut usually halfway through a show where I go, I've been talking too much. I'm just going to bring up the next thing a few times just to like back off a little bit so the crowd
give
doesn't
and take there.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're doing stand up, it's sort of you live and die by how well you're reading the crowd, and
right.
So you kind of develop this sort of you can develop the emotional temperature of the crowd in zones and go, okay, this is but there's a guy over here who's laughing, and that's why this section's good, and I can, so it's just trying to ride this wave.
Yeah.
I fucking love it so much.
So the sense of that, like, do you find that, like, in terms of scale of audience, right? So if you say, like, a group of, say, 20 people versus 100 versus 200, like, does it scale up like that? Or at a certain point, is it just, like, kind of they're out there and you're getting a sense of it?
It's ultimately the same. I mean, I think maybe 5,000 is the most I've ever performed for. And that, as it gets bigger and bigger, there's more separation between you and the crowd. It's not as intimate.
Right.
But, I think up to 2,000 people, it's pretty much the same.
Really?
Yeah, because they're essentially, at a certain level, it's just the weight of an audience becomes too much, and it just sort of topples a little bit. Like, up to a certain number, they can still come together as a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them as a singular entity. But at a certain point, in too big of a venue with too many people, that's why it's funny to me that people will go like, I'm going to do Madison Square Garden. Like, who the fuck are you talking to? You've got that section and that section and that section and that section that people up front. I mean, it's not like comedy. It just isn't. I don't think it's meant to be. It's intimate. I don't think it's meant to be fired that way.
Yeah.
But
you need a guitar in your hand and a catchy beat at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. But before, for years, people, I couldn't really sell tickets on the road. I would just go do stand up anyway. And, I did a show in Atlanta once, and it was a late show, and there were like 10 people in the audience. And sometimes those are the most fun shows because you can really connect. Like you just make everyone sit together. It's very important that people sit together. You don't want them to spread out because you need their energy together. And so, I was like, oh, this will be fun. So I put a chair up on stage and I brought each person from the audience one at a time and basically interviewed them, and everyone got to be in the show. So ultimately it's just about forming this relationship with an audience where you're, like I said, you're kind of leading them emotionally, not in a dickheaded way, but just that's why they're there. They want to take a ride of some sort, and and just keep it fun, and just remember that you're all. It shouldn't be a you and them. It's like, we're all on the same. I happen to have a microphone and I'm up here and I'm your tour guide, but not better than you. I'm one of you. I just happen to have a microphone.
So you're trying to put yourself on the same level as the sort of audience as a whole, but at the same time, you're not.
The way a tour guide would, like the way a tour guide would, where you
walking backwards and
yeah, exactly.
Do you consider the person you're interviewing like part of? Because like to me, because the way you're so good at, like when Comic-Con, I feel like was one of the things when everybody started like noticing you, at least for the hosting set. I remember like with there's the Superman guy that stood up and you handled it really well. Like it was this whole thing. I was like, holy crap! Like Chris Hardwick knows how to deal with that. But I feel like hosting is you have this other relationship with a guy that you're like actually interviewing with, right? You're like actually talking to somebody, you have to lead them through it. Do you consider them just part of the audience, or is that like this whole other relationship with the person you're talking to and their relationship to the audience and how you know, kind of connect them? And
I'm sort of the, I feel like in that case, you're the liaison between that entity and between that person or that group and the audience. And so you're basically guiding, you know, you're sort of for a little bit, you're the mouthpiece of the audience to just try to get them to open up a little bit. And then that's why I always like to leave plenty of time for audience questions, because I know I'm never going to cover. When I do the podcast, we get really granular about stuff, but when I'm doing panels, I ask very general questions so that it kind of loosens up the panel for the fan questions,
which are going to be more granular.
You know. Because you also run that risk, again, if I start getting too granular with the panel, then most people aren't going to care about those answers, and then I'm making it too much about myself. Like, you really just have to think of yourself as a friendly traffic cop. Oh, I'm going to open these guys up a little bit. I'm going to make them comfortable. Then I'm going to make the audience comfortable so then they can be comfortable at each other. And then, you know, occasionally, if it feels appropriate, just kind of interject something silly to just relax everyone and make it really comfortable. That's ultimately what it is. I feel like my job up there is to just make everyone comfortable so they'll open up.
Because it's naturally a completely artificial, uncomfortable thing, right?
It's a very artificial thing it's a strange human dynamic to put people on display and go talk one at a time. Now you interrogate these people, and then as a group, judge them.
And by the way, everyone can hear this. Thanks to technology and amplification, everyone here can hear this.
And so I think, you know, some of the problems that can arise when someone's moderating a panel is that they're making it too much about themselves, or they misread the audience, and sometimes that'll make people defensive. And so, you know, you just have to remember that we're all in Hall H at Comic-Con or wherever, and we're all lucky to be there, and it's fun, and this is an insane thing that we all get to do, and that it's a safe zone, and that we're all kind of like celebrating the shit that we like, and it's to be fun. Like, it really, you know, it's probably pretty like saccharine to reduce it to that, but ultimately it should just be all fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's definitely one of those things where I had the distinct feeling, because, you know, you're just like 1,000 things are going on in your head. At least when I was up there, where I'm like, okay, reading this, make sure I'm sound like I'm reading it and not like, you know, just like going straight off of a teleprompter, and, you know, have some inflection into it. But then at the same time, you become hyper aware of like, all right, this side's okay with this direction. This guy, not so much. So it's just weird. It's such an assault sensorily.
Well, the more you do it, the more. I mean, ultimately, it's like driving.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're a kid and you're like, wait, so I'm supposed to have this foot here and then do this, and this other pedal does what I'm supposed to, and then look at, and I have to. But it's just in a series of, you just start to get more comfortable with it, so that, you know, like on Talking Dead is a live show, there's someone in my ear. So when I'm talking to them, I know, like, they're going, okay, you have 3 minutes. So, and I'm looking at questions, and I know that I have to throw to a clip and, you know, just like keep that going, but then also.
It's like you're juggling, but it's all
juggling
upstairs.
But when you do it enough, then a lot of it just becomes automated in your head, in the sense of like, it's just all the mechanical stuff gets automated. Okay, the teleprompter, the crowd, got to throw to commercial. Here's the clip. That's fine. I got all that, and it's like it just sort of moves into the part of your brain that's like muscle memory.
Yeah.
So that then your personality can kind of come out, but still keep all those plates in the air, and you can totally. I mean, you could totally do it. It's
practice.
It's just practice. It really is. Just, but how else can you practice something like that?
No,
it's a weird thing to practice.
I don't know.
And I've fucked up so many times in my life, and I think if I'm good at it at all, it's just because of how many mistakes I've made and just going, oh yeah, don't do that again. Okay.
Right.
Oh right. Okay. Oh, they're upset. Okay. Good.
Right,
that didn't go. Okay. And then just learning from mistakes.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I think, by the way, real quick, how long has it been? About 2 years now, or like a year and a half since we met you randomly.
We had a weird lunch with you. I think it was just set up by Jimmy.
Yeah,
we were trying to remember why we had lunch with you. And then I think it was just to meet you.
Just a general meeting.
Yeah.
Like we're all kind of.
It was a burger meeting, which we don't take enough burger meetings.
We're all working around the same areas, and we should know each other. I thought it was great.
No, it was great. We were just. I think that's the only meeting I've ever had like that, where it's just like, let's just meet and talk for a bit.
Well, I liked it. It's a very interesting time in entertainment because 20 years ago, people like us would have had a much tougher time with our skill sets because we would have had to have been hired by someone to do something, as opposed to having the technological freedom to just go out and make shit.
Yeah.
There's no excuses anymore for people to not pursue the shit.
Please do something.
Yeah, because everything's so easy, you know?
I mean, we'd be assistant editors right now.
I mean, I don't mean to say that it's easy. It's hard to make the stuff, but the delivery system is like, it's possible to immediately reach everyone.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is so small. Like, again, anybody can write a novel. So if you want to write a novel, you can go write it. You write it. It used to be impossible to make film. It's like you need millions of dollars.
Yeah, you would have had to.
You can essentially.
You would have had to have as a like if you wanted to show someone, hey, I'm really great at effects.
Yeah,
you would have to have gotten some crazy system, done the effects, maybe shoot stuff on 16mm film, then edit it, and then do all of your effects, and then put it on a VHS tape, and copy that a bunch of times, and send it out to companies and go, hey, will you hire me to do special effects? And now, on your laptop, you can basically just, spend an afternoon, fucking put it up, and then tomorrow could have 500,000 views.
Yeah.
So it's just, everything's changed, and it's. So I really, really, really respect people who recognize that and go, yeah, I'm just gonna go make the thing I want because fucking why not?
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious now because I mean we're head deep just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Just what have you been up to since our burger meeting?
Yeah, I mean there was because I think we said back then is like you were the first person. You were like one of the first people to do that sort of like new media site. I mean that's what we talked about when we were there. Is like. When people say like, "What is RocketJump? What are you trying to do?" It's like the things we'd always say essentially. The Nerdist.
That's what
we
like
want
them,
to do. But like more film stuff. But like what Chris did essentially is like do your own content on a site, and it's just crazy you can do that now.
I almost feel like it's essential for people who are creators to have to do everything. It's like, well, you gotta. Yeah,
it's weird. You got that. On one hand, you have the like, oh, you don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none, but you kind of have to be a little bit of a jack of all trades now.
For me, what I discovered is, what I learned when I was starting to do all the Nerdist stuff was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff I know I'm not good at. I think recognizing your shortcomings is really important. Mm-hmm. And when you first start out, it's very maverick and like, I'm going to do everything and I'm never going to take days off and I'm going to do stuff, even though I know I'm not good at it because it just has to get done.
Right.
But at a certain point, as it starts to grow, you have to start bringing on experts in those fields or the whole thing is going to topple. Like like I know the things that I'm good at, but I'm not an editor. And I know that there are people who are better at web design than I am. So I'm going to, like at a certain point, I just would find ways to like, now I'm going to find a way to bring on other contributors because they're smarter and they know different areas than I am. And that'll sort of elevate everything. And then once I have that, then I can branch off in this other area. And then once I start building that, I can bring in someone who, I produced the podcast myself for 2 years, almost 3 years. And then was like, well, I can't do this anymore.
I feel like you have to get good enough to know who's good.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's an excellent point.
You learn enough about editing to be like, okay, I now know what a good editor is.
And then they'll come in and then sort of build off of what you've built off of, and then you sort of. I feel like on a lot of stuff with Nerdist, I'm involved, and I guess I consult in a way. Mm-hmm. I never try to tell people what they have to do. But, there's a certain like, oh, it just needs to feel a little more like this to fit into everything else. But I would never tell someone how to edit.
Yeah, it needs to be a very much higher level sort of steering of the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Because, again, there are so many things that I'm not good at. So, and things that I just don't, I would rather be doing other things that where I know I can add value to the company.
Yeah. Let's see. We got.
What is the future of Nerdist?
What is the future of Nerdist here?
Well, we're gonna develop more television. We just shot we're doing the bowling series on YouTube that we do. Also, bowling. We did it as a pilot for AMC.
Oh, awesome!
It was really fun. So we just have a round of edits right now, and the show's really funny, and it's hosted by the Sklar brothers, and it's Team Nerdist. So me and I got 3 people who had been on the podcast was my team. So me and Tom Lennon and Nathan Fillion and Pete Holmes bowled the Mad Men cast. So it was John Hamm and Vincent Kartheiser and Rich Sommer and Jay Ferguson at the spare room at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood.
Oh, cool.
So that was really fun. So we're developing more television. We're doing more events this year. We're developing more digital stuff. We're completely relaunching the website as Nerdist was a blog, and then it really only ever got as big as like a turbo blog. So now it's like, we're getting like an actual CMS, and we're redoing the website's going to have a robust mobile component and not just be like, oh, it's the one that you can select at the bottom, like view mobile.
Just zoom in and scroll.
Yeah,
It'll be fine.
Exactly. So, we, but I really feel like we're at an interesting time where people are trying to understand, first of all, how do you define the platforms as viewer habits shift?
Yeah.
Does television versus internet make a difference anymore?
Yeah.
And then when those things ultimately crash together, how's it all going to shake out? Essentially, you have a network. And if it's on television, then it's a television network.
Right.
But it really boils down to what's the device that's going to essentially unite all the platforms. And I don't know what that is yet, but
you'd be billionaire. That's what we're trying to find out. Trying to find it.
So so this year, what are you most looking forward to in terms of what you guys are doing?
There's a couple things that I can't talk about yet that I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
We just hired a new development guy at Nerdist who's essentially going to, his job every day is just going to be creative stuff in terms of like finding content, developing content, pitching content to places. So again, like I'm so fascinated by the game of, it always felt like SimCity to me. Of like, oh, you build a little thing and then you put roads in and then you build another town and then you connect it and then you put a railroad in and then you put an airport and a space needle. And so it's just finding ways to bridge the digital and television stuff in new ways. And like, there's so much opportunity to figure this shit out right now.
It seems like no one's really trying to do it.
I feel like people are. They just don't know. They're just like
everybody's in webides of like the Office web series.
Well, that's the thing. Like
web series.
Just putting television on the internet's not the key. And just so it's how do you create complementary content on all the different platforms from the same source material? Like how do we put a little bit of this here and a little bit of that there and tie it all together? And so it's really just sort of growing Nerdist and trying to make it into a thing that hopefully people trust. And Nerdist News I'm super excited about because and we've been aggregating news for so long, but I want to start breaking news. I want to really like, we're going to start Jessica Chobot's she's our anchor for Nerdist News, but I want to bring in like correspondents and bring in our, have a dedicated gaming correspondent, a dedicated entertainment and comics guy, and and really just like make it a hub of information that's within the voice of what people.
If you could make a site that I could go to instead of Kotaku, I would be incredibly appreciative. So I hope that's what you're doing.
Isn't it funny that it's sort of like if the internet is kind of like this giant house, and if you lived in a giant mansion, you'd probably really only go into 3 rooms. And that's really
you just hear just fucking in the other rooms. Just through the walls, just muffled and gross.
Keep it down, ex-hamster!
Just like, it's actually 90% just rooms with people engaged in sexual deviancy.
And they're all like 20-year-old Russian guys with mullets.
If the internet was a house, it'd be truly a horrific house.
Dude, we have to make that video.
Yeah, the internet house.
Internet house. But I'm so fascinated by this sort of the social dynamics of how people interact with the internet I've been on the internet since you could really be on the commercial internet.
Yeah.
I wasn't like on ARPA or anything, but I went on, the first time I went online was in 93, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And so it's interesting that it started where we were, a lot of people were basically on like AOL.
Yeah.
And then you knock the wall down and you look out and you're
it's like, what is this strange world?
Yeah, it's like fucking Logan's Run. There's a whole other world out here where, and so, people cut a hole in the wall and they went out and ventured out into the internet. And then slowly what happened, they're like, oh, it's just too much. It's too crazy. And then so they started going back into closed systems like Facebook again. It's basically people have come back around almost and just like, no, just give me one little corner and just spoon feed me shit. Just recommend shit to me. I don't want to.
I want computers or other people to do all the work.
Yeah, I don't fucking.
Yeah, it used to be a thing where it was like, have you browsed the Yahoo directory of things? Like, there's all these new sites and all these web rings I have to discover. And then now it's just like, no,
web
just
rings.
Reddit. Just give me everything I need. Reddit
Just
done.
please,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just get a few subreddits and then I'm good. That's all.
Okay, I guess
that's all
it's
the
a
news I
new
need.
cat Tumblr. Is that a good one? All right, throw that on my list. A rotation.
Cats as hats. All right, great. Yeah, guy's got a cat. It's like a hat. That's fucking awesome.
2 weeks of that and I'll be good. Yeah.
There's some real. I've been loving misleading thumbnails is a really great subreddit where you look at the thumbnail and someone says they describe what it looks like. Yeah. But then you blow it up into something totally different. Misleading thumbnails is great.
Real quick, we're gonna wrap it up here in a second, but I want to pitch you an idea for a game that I have, which is called. I don't know what it's called yet, but here's what you do. You take. Okay, hold on. Let me just get through this. All right. Okay. Because Reddit, the problem with Reddit is that the same stuff just gets repeated and then just voted up over and over again. So I want to do a game where all you do is you look at the headline or the picture and you have to guess. It's like Family Feud style. What's the top comment going to be? And then it's like probably a reference to a meme of some kind, or second comment will be a bot gimmick account. Third comment will be someone calling it a repost, and 20 comments about how it's not a repost. And correct, 100%. It's so easy to guess it.
Well, the thing that I always see is like someone will point something out about the post that's a little offbeat, and then everything below that's attached in that thread is just building on. It's like a sub meme within the meme.
Those
that
are
has
amazing.
nothing to do anymore by the time. It has nothing to do with the original thing.
Such a weird world of comment systems.
It is. I do enjoy it though. I enjoy it.
It's endlessly entertaining. Anyway, we should wrap it up here. It's getting the sun is setting and we gotta go. Man, I'm sure you're as
You know
busy
how
as
fucking
we
lucky
are.
we are? I'm in a short sleeve shirt right now, and most people are frozen in carbonite.
Oh, they are.
Oh yeah.
It's like most people are just like this in the rest of the country.
Yeah, like, well, how is it in California? It's like, well, there are fires actually. Things are on fire. That's how. Yeah,
It's hot. I shouldn't have worn a long sleeve shirt. That's how it is in California. Like, it's
You guys
great
have
over
ice,
there.
we have fire.
Yeah.
it's great. It balances out. Thanks very much, Chris.
Thank
for
you.
taking the
Yeah,
time.
pleasure
I
to see
talk
you
too
again.
much.
Yeah.
No.
okay.
I just appreciate you can find time in your
No, of
incredibly
course.
busy day.
Yeah.
No. This is our a podcast.
Yeah, where are
podcast.
we, actually?
This is our podcast room now. We're at the Hollywood Center Studios. We're at midnight shoots, and so we set this up. We do a lot of podcasts at that desk back there.
Oh, okay. At midnight. I want to see it. When do I tune in?
It's at midnight after Colbert on Comedy Central, Monday through Thursday.
All right.
So whenever Colbert and Daily Show and Colbert are on, we're right after them.
Cool.
Talking
Fantastic.
Dead's back now, right?
Yeah, we're back now. We
Nice.
just came back last week. So it's apparently I don't watch ahead because I don't want the stuff in my brain, too far in advance of our show.
Yeah.
But apparently the shit that Scott Gimple's going to do this year, all I know is that the producers are. Robert Kirkman said, "You're going to have an interesting job on Talking Dead this season."
That's all he leaves you with.
Because whenever horrible things happen now, I'm the first face that people see on the show, and so it's like, sorry, I didn't do it. Please, let's all. I didn't kill anyone.
Not my fault, everybody.
It's not my fault. Let's all just take a minute and hug. Should we hug? I don't know. What do you guys want to do? But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Chris Hardwick. You can check him out at nerdist.com, youtube.com/nerdist, all anywhere Nerdist is. Just Google it. Just Google it. You got Pinterest, Instagram unlocked. You probably have every new social media thing. Just register it right away. You're
There's
sitting
a
at
few,
home.
like there's a few, there's a few like
Been sniped on a couple?
No, well, actually, I have on a couple, but a few that I've been able to negotiate away.
Oh,
like
yeah.
on Instagram, some kid had Nerdist, and I traded him a limited edition Walking Dead watch for it.
Nice. You're bartering for
I
your
did. I
social
bartered
media.
for it.
Good work.
And so but it's so like even if like some new social network pops up, I'm like, I better just park it just in case.
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
just that's what everyone does. You even do that for any kids' names you might have. Like, better make sure that
4 years from now, 4 space.
You remember when you used to go? Do you remember when you used to go domain hunting in the middle of the
Oh,
night?
yes.
Oh,
You
yeah.
start parking domains.
Yep.
And then it was always like, well, I mean, I guess I better get the .tv and
yeah,
the
might
.us
as well. They're just
and
upselling you
the .net
the
and-
rust-proof coding.
Yeah, then it's like, well, I just paid $17 times like 6, and
You never use it.
Never, ever
for
use any of the
erectoral
extensions.
college.
We still have we have a rectoral college, and we've been meeting every election. We've been meaning to put up a map where the votes are shown by
Represented by
penises.
phalluses.
but-
Why are we not?
It's
gonna go
next
this-
time we'll bring it. We'll just give you the domain.
I have dudemynipplesarehuge.com. And then I also have papal nip slips, which is basically pictures of whenever a nipple would come out of the Pope's robe, which I don't think there are any, but I envision. I just thought throughout history you could Photoshop, Pope Pius the First, and then just a little pink.
Oh, what are we doing? We gotta get on this. Right.
We'll
There's
do
a
a brainstorm
whole
sesh.
world. Yeah, we gotta get on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, erectoralcollege.com, papalnipslips.com.
Pleasure.
So I'm Freddie Wong.
Matt
Des-
Arnold.
I'm Des Dolly.
Thanks again to Benji, our producer, and Alex Reeves Point Blue for mixing off in the corner over there. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.